What are you doing?
I'm just...
New Unleash the Archers album out.
Oh, yeah. Great.
Here, put this on. Get started on a video right away. Check the discography, review the new album. Let's go!
Okay, I'm right on it, boss.
Hey there, music fans. Welcome to Music is a Journey. I'm Peter Scove, and today I'm going to talk about the latest release by the band Unleash the Archers, a power metal band from Canada. They dropped their latest album called Phantoma on May 10th. I'm going to take a look at the different songs on the album and give my reviews, my opinions about them, as well as my overall opinion of the album. But before we get started with that, I want to go through the history of the band and just take a look at their discography leading up until now, because it's an interesting history. So the band formed when some of the members were still at the University of Victoria, UVic, in British Columbia, Canada. Drummer Scott Buchanan was in a band with Braden Didjikowski, who was guitars and vocals. And they were doing more of a deathcore type of thing. And they were thinking they wanted to do something to change the band up and bring in a different sound to the band. And they thought, well, how about adding a female vocalist? Now at this time, drummer Scott Buchanan was dating Brittany Hayes, who also was very interested in singing. I'm afraid I don't know so much detail about her vocal background, but she saw her boyfriend on stage with his band and she thought, I want to do that kind of thing. So by the way things worked out, she was asked to join the band. A new band was formed and they went with the title Unleash the Archers. They added Zach Henderson on bass and Mike Selman on guitars, and then in early 2009 they released a 4-song EP, which included the songs Black Goat of the Woods and The Destroyer, or Destroyer, both of which would end up on the debut album, as well as 2 other tracks, Archers Fly and Hope Falls. They then went into the studios at Omega Media Core Studios in Richmond, British Columbia, and recorded the debut album and released it independently. It was released August 10th, 2009, so with the aforementioned lineup. The album was called Behold the Devastation, and the artwork was done by J.P. Fournier, who has actually done artwork for a lot of metal albums. In fact, if you check Discogs, there are 89 albums listed with him as the artist. He also did a couple of albums for Dragon Force in there, and he designed the Dragon Force logo. He also designed the Unleash the Archers logo as well. Now, as I often say, debut albums usually show us where the band is coming from rather than where they're going, and this is not a power metal album at all. This is a melodic death metal album with a lot of emphasis on Braden Didjikowski's gruff death growl vocals, but of course a lot of Brittany Hayes' clean vocals as well. It's an interesting album for sure in the band's catalog, and certainly if you're more familiar with the recent stuff, this would be quite a surprise to listen to. I actually quite like a few of the tracks on here. Eat What You Kill and Tied to a Stag are my favorites. And in spite of the band's interest in science fiction fantasy, a lot of the titles on here suggest more of a fantasy and wilderness thing. For example, we've got Black Goat of the Woods or Tied to a Stag, The Filth and the Fable, Eat What You Kill. I mean, these things sound more of a wilderness type of fantasy theme rather than science fiction. They followed up the debut with a release on May 18th, 2011, their second full-length album, Demons of the Astro Waste. This is a concept narrative album, a story about a mercenary, as I understand it, who's traveling through the galaxy and I guess the adventures that the things he encounters. These tracks continue along with this more melodic death metal style, but we start to hear a little bit of this traditional metal and power metal coming in. Particularly, I find in the track Daughters of Winterstone, there is more of a power metal type chorus in there, which is actually, this is one of my favorite tracks off the album. There are sound effects like laser battles and wind and clanking metal and sobbing person, somebody sobbing, a marching army, all sorts of things, some even spoken words in between the tracks. So it really does give that concept narrative feel. Again, J.P. Fournier doing the artwork here. There were 2 videos released for this. The first one was for the song Dawn of Ages. That's an interesting video where the band goes on a camping trip and one by one the members are picked off by a Sasquatch who abducts them all because he wants them to perform one of their songs for him. Funny video. And the other one was for the song general of the Dark Army. And this is more of a serious, more epic type of video. They're out, the two characters are out crossing a river in the misty mountains, and then this figure with, you know, helmet and sword comes out, and there's obviously some issue between that guy and the guy in the video. The band is out performing in the forest. How heavy metal. And somebody commented in one of the comments for the video, the funny thing is, or the amazing thing is, that they actually didn't run into another heavy metal band out recording in the forest. After Demons of the Astrowaste, there was a lineup change. So Zach Henderson, a bass guitarist, he left the band, and Brad Kennedy came in on bass, and also Mike Selman on guitars. He left the band and was replaced by Grant Truesdell, guitars and vocals. And we're starting to see the beginning of the core lineup, because now we have Scott Buchanan drums, Brittany Hayes, who by now is known as Brittany Slays, because she totally slays it on vocals, and Grant Truesdale on guitar and vocals. So we're getting there. They released, originally it was a 2-song EP single type thing, but they added another song, and it was finally released as a 4-song digital download EP called Defy the Skies. Again, artwork done by J.P. Fournier. And the sound quality, I hear, has a slight improvement. It feels a little bit fuller now and developing more towards, anyway, higher quality in the production. And there's also a song or two on there that is showing the band moving more again towards this melodic, this traditional metal and power metal type sound. This is also the final recording with Braden Dzikowski on vocals. In February of 2015, the band signed with Napalm Records, and there was another lineup change. So Braden Dzikowski left the band and was replaced by Andrew Kingsley, also guitar and vocals. And now we have 4 main members of the band who have remained with the band since that time. We also saw Brad Kennedy on bass leave and was replaced by Kyle Shepard on bass. Then in, June 26, 2015, they released their 3rd full-length album, Time Stands Still, also the last album to feature the artwork of J.P. Fournier. This is a big step in the band's sound. This is much more of a traditional heavy metal and power metal mix. You get songs like Tonight We Ride, Test Your Metal, and Go Down Fighting, which are more straight up traditional metal songs. You also get more epic pieces like Curse, or one of my favorites, actually one of my favorite songs, is Dream Crusher. So longer songs that go through different moods and paces and so forth. An excellent album, really. The video for Tonight We Ride uses the artworks, the works of the Death Guild Thunderdome at the Burning Man Festival, and it was filmed in the Nevada desert. So if you're a Mad Max fan and you want to enjoy a good metal video with Mad Max type scenery and stuff, take a look at the video. It's pretty cool. They're out there in the desert. Also, this album, I feel, production-wise or sound quality-wise, really seems to emphasize the drums, also the bass, and then the vocals. I find the guitars, while having a cool sound and excellent riffs, are a little bit back in the mix. I don't feel the kind of meat of the guitars as well, but it is an excellent album. I know some people really like this one. In a recent interview I watched with Brittany Slays, she also said that this album was a rough concept album about a small-time Canadian band trying to make it big. So yeah, they're on the right track. Another lineup change with Kyle Shepard leaving and Nico Whitworth coming in on bass. The band then began writing for a double album, another concept narrative, a story about a character called the Immortal, and the antagonist of the story is the Matriarch. Now, as the background story, the Immortal is a character who is a bit like a genie figure. He sleeps in this great mountain called Apex, and when somebody needs his services, they have to make some kind of incantation or something to waken him, and then he will serve them in whatever needs. As he is a warrior, it is usually ought to go off and fight. However, the character of the Matriarch, she performed some ritual some 60 years prior where she sacrificed the lives of her 4 sons in order to give him immortality, and at the same time the souls of her 4 sons became soul-bound to her, so they must follow her wishes. So this is the story there, the first part where the matriarch awakens him and uses him to go off and battle to, I guess, to assert her dominance of the galaxy. The opening track, Awakening, is just such a fantastic song. And that was the song that got me into Unleash the Archers. I watched an episode of Banger TV where Jason Decay of Cauldron and Sam Dunn were talking about power metal. And as they were talking about it, then they mentioned what are some power metal bands from Canada, and they mentioned Unleash the Archers. So this was Awakening was the third video I watched, and I loved the song so much that I bought the album and got into the band. It shows the band performing in the studio and just shows the incredible musicality, the technical skill of the band, as well as, of course, the fantastic vocals of Brittany Slays. Shadow Guide, the second song, is one I have recently gotten into. I really love the guitar riffs in this song, and there's even one part near the beginning. It almost seems to have a Deep Purple type feel to it for just a brief moment there. They made videos for, let's see here, Awakening, Cleanse the Bloodlines. Now that is a really cool video, again telling some kind of short story, but has the band standing out in the snow, performing in front of a blazing bonfire. I mean, how much more metal can you get? And of course they've got their, makeup on for the video, and throwing shapes against the flames, and as well there's a really cool bird in the video, so I gotta love it. And it's done in that kind of widescreen movie type format as well. The closing track, Apex, is also a really cool one. Again, this kind of power metal type feel to it. And they performed it live as an acoustic version in a studio, a TV studio for a television program. And they recently re-released this album as a deluxe digital edition featuring 2 additional tracks, one of them being the acoustic version of Apex, where everyone in the video is performing on acoustic instruments and with sheet music in front of them. And nobody seems to be paying any attention to the sheet music except drummer Scott Buchanan, who is fastidiously studying the sheet music as he's playing kettle drums and crashing the cymbals and ringing the chimes, but he is also seen playing flute, French horn, cello, and violin. And at first it's like, oh, that looks very interesting. However, if you watch him playing the cello, it's a little suspicious. He seems to be playing it a little bit too aggressively. And at the end of the video, after it has faded to black and the song has concluded and all, we see Scott actually tooting and making sounds on French horn and trumpet, or hacking the slashing the violin bow over the violin and the cello. So we know it was all just a performance, but very, very good video and excellent song in the acoustic version. So this album here is mentioned by some people to be the apex of their work. It is a traditional metal album and a power metal album, but with really great riffs, some excellent solos, excellent catchy choruses in places, a great story, but it is also a straight up metal band. There isn't that much else added in here, unlike what we would see on the next album. The band had originally planned on releasing a double album, however it was decided that Apex should be released as a single album and then that Abyss would come later on. In the time after the release of Apex, the band went off to do some other things, and they decided to record an EP, or actually 2 singles, of some of the influences, or some of the songs they enjoyed listening to while on the road. So one of them was Northwest Passage by Stan Rogers, and a very traditional Canadian folk song, which they did a wonderful power metal version and an interesting video where Brittany seems to be slipping between dimensions and seeing alternate versions of her bandmates as well as alternate versions of herself. They also covered a song called Heartless World by a band called Tease. I have Tease's debut. I do not have the album with that song on, although I'd like to get it. Also during this time, bassist Nico Whitworth left the band, and so the next album, as well as the Explorers EP, was recorded without a bassist, a permanent member in the band, only a session musician. In, let's see here, August 21st of 2020. Okay, so the band actually wrapped up the recording of the album, and it was going into final production stages, and of course then COVID-19 broke out. So they were sitting on an album ready to release, and then wondering, should we even bother to release this? We can't tour, we can't do anything to promote it. What are we going to do? Well, they decided to release it anyway, so August 21st, 2020, they release their 5th full-length album, and man, what an album. So this is part 2 of the immortal story that was started with Apex. And in this story here, the grandson of the matriarch wants to seek revenge on his grandmother for killing his father. And so he awakens the immortal, steals the immortal away, tries to escape, and then they have a final showdown, which is here on the album cover, with the immortal facing off with the matriarch and her 4 soul-bound sons. And this is also told in the song The Wind That Shapes the Land, which is an epic piece and probably one of the Unleash the Archer's finest works. Just an excellent, excellent song. The album here, though, takes us in a big change from Apex. We have got layers of vocals. We have multi-vocal tracks. We have a lot of synthesizer coming in here. The album has become much more melodic, much more of a power metal, almost not really symphonic, but getting there type of power metal album. But when I heard this, I thought this was really fantastic. This was such an incredible piece of work. The band got awarded the Juno Award for Best Heavy Metal Album of the Year. They received the award in 2021, so that's really cool. Also, at the end of the year, just a lot of people were putting this album in their top 10 lists for the year, as well as Brittany Slayes being listed in top 10 or top 5 or even #1 spot for Best Female Vocalist. They did, I think, 4 albums for this. One is for the song Abyss, where the band are performing in a studio and then they get sucked out through into space and face off with the matriarch, defeating her with their music. Legacy is, it's a bombastic sound, just one of this like wall of sound where the drumming makes you feel like you're standing underneath an avalanche. And even in the background, behind all the guitars and the vocals, multiple vocal tracks, there's even like a kind of, almost like a background symphony of vocal layers, which is, it's more like a Devin Townsend type production, I find, with just so much added in there, but beautiful melody. The video has the band coming from different places around town and meeting up down in downtown Vancouver. The song Soulbound is again a type of storyline video where we've got makeup and costume, blood, and all sorts of cool stuff. A very, very cool video and a great song too, one of my favorites. And then the song Faster Than Light, they did a video when they were finally getting out of the COVID lockdowns. They could get out. They went to a local park and filmed a kind of death race where the 4 members are running, and one by one, as they drop out of the race, they are shot. Here is poor Grant being shot in the back as he tries to escape from the death race. Brittany is the victor at the end, and then there is a surprise twist at the end of the video. Very amusing video. Apparently some people walking by through the park in the scene actually applauded Brittany's victory, and then she quite genuinely laughs at that because that was not supposed to be part of the video. Yeah, this is just truly a magnificent album, and that's why I also got the t-shirt. So, with such a great accomplishment, how would the band follow this up? Well, that's where we get on to this year's release of their 6th full-length album, Phantoma. Couple of changes for the band before the release of the album. First of all, touring bass player Nick Miller became a full-time member of the band in 2021. So they once again had a bass player in the band. That's their 4th now. And also Scott Buchanan and Brittany Hayes, had a child together. So that made some big changes towards their approach to recording and performing music. The concept for the Phantoma album actually began back in 2021, and it was the story of an AI who achieves sentience and wants to become human. So this was based on stories like Blade Runner, maybe Data from Star Trek, and some of these old classic sci-fi films. She is part of a computer network that is in charge of looking after the needs of human beings. And she manages to implant herself, after achieving consciousness, self-awareness, she implants herself into an android body and then goes to try to seek living together with the humans, whom she perceives as having the perfect lives based on what they post on the internet. The world has suffered some climatic disaster and it is now unlivable. Human beings live in isolated biodomes. And the rest of the world is unlivable. So just the robots and androids, they are out there doing all the dirty work in the harsh landscape while humans are protected inside their domes. The AI character's full name is Phase 4 Network Tier 0 Unit Model A, which is then abbreviated to Phantoma, spelled like this. and then just simply read as Phantoma. So she goes off to seek out the human habitation and try to live with the humans. However, she must face the collective, which is the group of human beings who are kind of ruling the human domain. And very much similar to the Temples of Syrinx in Rush's 2112 album, we find that they are not exactly welcoming to new ideas. Phantoma becomes disillusioned and disappointed with what humans are. She realizes they are not the gods that she imagined, and at the end I think there is some upset about the whole thing. So my personal opinion about the album is I think it is really terrific. I knew that it would be very difficult possibly for them to follow up the greatness of Abyss, and I think they have achieved it in a way. This is not Abyss, this is a different album, different concept and different story. But one of the things that I actually noticed more recently after listening to this for the 5th time is that they don't have some of that big wall of sound that they had on some of the tracks on Abyss. This is a little bit, how can I say, like more cleaned up in a way, like a little more easier. You don't get this assault of sound on the ears, no matter how good the songs are. But still, we have a lot of use of synthesizer, guitar synthesizer, also a little bit of orchestral instrumentation. Again, lots of beautiful, catchy melodies. Some people have commented that the riffs are not as interesting as on Apex, and that well may be. One of the criticisms I heard or read is just that it is a little bit too much power metal. But on the other hand, it is still a really great album. Even though people are rating it somewhere around 3.5 out of 5 or whatever, they still have a lot of compliments to say about the album. So disregarding what everybody else thinks, I'm going to sound like a fanboy here, but I really love it. Like from start to finish, it's great. And one of the things I really love about this album, and that I also love about Abyss, is that it is an album where I can listen to the whole thing without feeling the need to skip songs. However, if I'm in the mood, I can also pull off my favorite, my top 3 favorites of the album and put on a Unleash the Archer's best of playlist. I can also make an extended playlist including 5 songs off the album that I love, and as well there are other songs too that don't make it into my top 5 but that are also really, really good. It's possible that I will either listen to this for my favorite songs or just all the way through. It is probably unlikely that I will listen to the album and skip a track or two. So let's start off with Human Era. This opens the album and sets the stage. It tells us what is the situation, what is going on. It is a good song, but also what I like about it is that it doesn't launch us straight into all the things that make Unleash the Archers great. It is just a great setup song. For the second song, Phantoma, spelt with the PH4/NT0-MA, that is where we hear a real Unleash the Archer song with Britney's, really high notes, the fantastic power metal beginning, the catchy chorus, just one of my top 3 songs from the album. Buried in Code starts off as a traditional metal song with a very catchy, the chorus, the song title in the opening, line by line, I'm working it overtime, in a cappella before the song kicks in. After this, we have The Collective, which is the first introduction to the harsh vocals, which I failed to mention, but the harsh vocals have been maintained throughout all of their albums, usually reserved for the antagonist characters in the stories. I'm really glad they did that. They didn't just go full-on power metal and completely leave their death melodic death metal beginnings behind. Grant Truesdale does a fantastic vocals on the performance on the harsh vocals, so that's great. So The Collective again starts off with this more, again, power metal, but a little bit more toned down, and then we get to this kind of marching dirge chant with, we are the collective, a chorus of voices, similar in a way to We Don't Need No Education from Pink Floyd's The Wall, but in the background Grant is just doing his snarling growl there, which is really cool. There's an excellent guitar solo where at the end they go into almost like a classical guitar twist. Just a moment, was that on Collective or was that on Phantoma? Okay, it's there in one of the 2 songs. This goes on to Green and Glass, where they made a video for this, where the whole video was all conceptualized and shot, and then using AI technology, they had the AI system learn on a licensed work from a particular artist, and then the AI then painted over their video on the green screen, which gave this almost like a heavy metal I'm talking about the early 80s movie type of feel to it, but done in AI rather than stop motion animation type effects. The video is really cool and shows the story of one of the episodes of Phantoma, but it got some flack from people who understood that AI is evil because, you know, it takes from copyright, it steals from artists' work, and there's no real control over what AI is taking and using. So there was a lot of criticism. Some people simply misunderstood that the band actually just used AI to create the whole album even, which did not happen. But Green and Glass is also one of my favorites. Again, a very uplifting feeling power metal song with beautiful chorus and these wonderful angelic vocals at the end, as well as a really good guitar solo. We move on to Gods in Decay, which is also a favorite of mine. A little bit different, still that power metal feel, still really catchy chorus, but a different feel overall to the delivery of the verses. So I think good variety, in spite of the fact that this is mostly a power metal album, if not completely. There is still variety in the songs that make them stand out apart from each other, which is great. We then get on to Give It Up or Give It All, which is the epic track off the album. I think it's over 7 minutes and 30 seconds long. This is like just an epic 80s power ballad. It's like they took almost every cliche from an 80s power ballad and composed it into this one epic piece. Even the lyrics are just so cliche, but two things I find interesting about this song. One of them is that it is the only song that doesn't actually lyrically address anything related to the story. So this could be a completely standalone track on its own. However, it also, as Brittany said in an interview, is an important part of the story because it is where Phantoma realizes that all her dreams are lost, or all her expectations, her hopes are gone, and she has nothing to back her up except herself. So that was really interesting, a very important track. What's funny is that some people don't like it because it is just so much of an 80s power ballad type thing, but one reviewer for Metal Injection said that he loves the song for all the wrong reasons, and, you know, to heck with it, who cares? Me too, I don't give a flying arrow what people think about it. I love it. It is one of my favorite tracks, and I am happy to listen to it because even in the 80s, I might not have cared so much for the power ballads after a little bit of an overdose of them. Unleash the Archers have just done it so well on here. Brittany's vocal performance is great. The structure of the whole song, the different moods it goes through, the change-ups. I think it is just an incredible piece of work, so I love it too. After that, we get to Ghosts in the Mists. This was the first song, I think the second song they released as a single. Again, power metal and just really cool part. What I like is that they actually have this more evil guitar riff with Grant singing his part in there. The Japanese version of this also includes a bonus track, the song Ghosts in the Mist, sung in Japanese, which is really cool. And one interesting thing is that some people were saying that the album, they used AI to write some of the lyrics, and I wondered about this, but in a video I saw last night with Brittany, she said that they were kind of goofing around with Chat GPT, and they thought, well, let's see what happens if we ask it to write lyrics for one of our songs, and they put in a prompt, and it came up with a kind of poem, and they thought, well, okay, we can't really use that for our song, but she thought there were some interesting word pairings in there, and so she used the Chat GTP to write some stuff, and then she picked out, I don't remember what she said, but there were some pairings of words or triplets of words which sounded really cool, which she thought could fit into the song. So if you want to know how they used AI to write the album, it was using Chat GTP to suggest things that they could then decide to put into the lyrics for the song Ghosts in the Mists. Last two tracks, Seeking Vengeance and Blood Empress. There have also been videos. Blood Empress released just a couple of days before the album. Again, two really cool tracks. I just find that by this point I have heard so many great tracks that even though I listen to these last two songs and think, wow, they're really cool, I end up liking other tracks so much more that I keep forgetting how they sound, which is weird. So once again, my overall impression of Phantoma is that I think they have succeeded in making another great album. In spite of some reviewers saying that it doesn't live up to, say, Apex or Abyss even, I think it is a fantastic piece of work, and I'm really glad the band seem very pleased with it and they are excited about taking it out on the road. There's one cautionary word that I would put in here, is that with Abyss and Phantoma, they have jumped into a new realm, more of a full-on power metal type thing with less of the traditional metal feel to it, mostly power metal feel to it. They've put in synthesizers, they've come up with this just bigger overall sound. And although the two albums sound different from one another, there's much more of a similarity between those two than either of those albums with Apex or Time Stands Still or the earlier works, of course. Now the thing is that Rob at Northern Revolution Records, he is a big Taylor Swift fan. He bought her new album and he said he really liked it, but he got tired of it very quickly. And the reason being is that the people who put that album together are the same ones who did the last 3 Taylor Swift albums. So he said he likes it, but he has already heard that album 3 times before, so it very quickly became tiring. So this is the second Unleash the Archers album to have this more full-on power metal and synthesizer, even almost progressive and symphonic in places. So what will the next album bring? Will they do another conceptual piece again using the same style, or will the band start moving off into some new direction? I wouldn't mind a 3rd album that's similar to Abyss and Phantoma, but I think a 4th album, unless the songs were really, really good, I might start to wish that they would try something a little bit different. So who knows? Anyway, for now, their 6th album, Phantoma, I think is really, really brilliant. I love it. I'm enjoying listening to many of the tracks over and over again, as well as the whole album, and I have easily added 4 or 5 tracks to my list of all-time favorite Unleash the Archers tracks. Alright everyone, thank you so much for watching this video. Please do leave any comments you have, if you love the album, if you have criticisms against the album, anything you want to say about Unleash the Archers. I am also going to add 6 video links just as recommendations if you haven't seen these videos or if you're curious. First of all, I'm going to add Tonight We Ride. That is the Mad Max video, which is just a fun video to watch if you're into that Mad Max type of thing. The video for Awakening, which has so many reaction videos and is just a really great example of what Unleash the Archers do and can do. Soulbound, because it's a great song and it is just a really cool video with lots of lighting, visual effects, makeup, costumes and everything. It's great. Faster Than Light, because it is a terrific song. In fact, I failed to mention this, but I heard one reviewer say that it is a Stradivarius guitar type song where it is just so fast and really cool, and the video is lots of fun with the death race and the twist at the end. The Apex acoustic version, just because it is a really powerful, beautiful song done very nicely in acoustic, and it's fun to watch Scott goof around on the different instruments very seriously. And finally, the video for Green and Glass, because I think it is a really cool piece of work and it is one of my favorite songs from the album. So all those are going to be linked in the description. Thanks again for watching, everyone. Catch you in another video sometime. Take care and enjoy music.